Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I know you are very, very busy. You have a lot on your plate. So, I would love to start with your background. I mean, our listeners would love to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely. I got my start in brick and mortar retail, really the old fashioned way. I was at Barnes and Noble for 13 years. So, learned to sell the hard way, transitioned into digital in 2010, I think. Um, and really had the opportunity to build a digital program from the ground up at a brand that had really only done print up until that point. So, very exciting. Got to learn as things developed, learned how much I love the digital space and e-commerce space. Went on to work at a few other places, did some time at an agency, building stores for food brands, and I found myself 3 years ago at OLLY, and been there since, and it's amazing.
Wow. So, I would love to learn more about OLLY because I know OLLY is operating in a very, very interesting industry with a lot of potential, but also with a lot of regulations and restrictions. So, please share with us about
Yes.
OLLY and what, yeah.
Yeah, the supplement space is really challenging.
Yeah.
There is a lot of regulation, as there should be. There are
Hmm.
definitely players in the space that don't necessarily have the highest quality product, so the regulation is welcome. Um, there's so kind of much to unpack when it comes to vitamins and supplements and the tactics that can be used in the marketplace, and also we compete in a very traditional space in some ways. The Walmarts, the Walgreens, the drugstore shelves, and then kind of juxtaposed with the digital space where every Kardashian has a vitamin brand, and there are a lot of kind brands that come and go really quickly, and then there are some that really dig in. We saw Hims and Hers really come in on the over the counter in the over the counter space, and then dig into pharmaceuticals. So that is a kind of a fascinating evolution, I think, to see this sort of supplement brand become more of a medical provider. Very interesting. And I think customers are looking for something different now in the vitamin space. They want it to be a pleasant experience. They don't want to take giant gross pills 3 times a day. Like
Hmm.
they want the experience to be delightful. And that's really where Ollie comes in.
Okay, so what's the secret sauce? I mean, let's talk about the marketing aspect, some of the differentiation aspect, unique selling points. How do you position Ollie?
Obviously, the packaging was pretty revolutionary at the time. Just
Okay.
having packaging that stood out on the shelves in the square bottles was really groundbreaking when we first got started. But I
Hmm.
think the most important thing is that our gummy vitamins taste amazing. And that's the key, I think, to everything else. Our packaging is beautiful. You barely have to market it because the packaging is so great. But at the end of the day, customers care about if the product tastes good and if it works. And those are two things where I think we really excel. And the delight factor for our products is so critical to the relationship we have with our customers.
Yes. So how do you position this, value statement in an e-commerce scenario, right? Obviously, they can taste, they can. Tell us about the journey. I mean, what shoppers are experiencing.
Yeah, I think awareness is more of a challenge in the digital space,
Hmm.
because you can't, there's no free sample. You can't tell for sure if it tastes good.
Yeah.
We make that promise that it tastes good, but it's even. I mean, even in a brick and mortar scenario, it's not like we're handing out samples in a cup so you can taste it. But
Okay.
delight is one of our brand pillars, so that a lot of our marketing, a lot of our communications, a lot of our value propositions really dig into this idea of like vitamins can be delightful. They can taste wonderful. They have real flavors that, we have flavor scientists that build. So I feel like it's really ingrained in all of our branding that
Hmm.
if you use this product, you are going to like it and it will work. But the delight factor, I think, is really, really important. And that is a promise we have to make in our marketing. But then we also know that we're capable of living into that, because we all know that they taste amazing. We wouldn't sell them
Yeah.
if they didn't.
Yeah. And in terms of the vitamin themselves and the characteristics and the behavior, I mean, there is any specific things that you focus or just providing a complete array of vitamin supplements? What's the, let's say, the product configuration and the
Sure. Yeah,
variants?
that's a great question because I think we're one of the few supplement brands that hit across a lot of different product segments.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, there are many of our competitors just play in the multi segment. Many of our
Mm-hmm.
competitors just play in gut health, and we're in all of those segments. So it's beauty, it's gut health, it's mood, it's cognitive. We really hit them all.
Mm-hmm.
And from a segment perspective, the majority of our vitamins are gummies, and they taste amazing. But we also have some capsules. We were one of the first to have a women's sexual health product line that is continues to be a huge driver of our business and of our awareness and of our new to brand. Um, and then we also, like last year, we launched a series of adaptogens, which was very new at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Capsules as well. We have fast dissolves that are for sleep that sort of look like Smarties and taste like Smarties, but have the same kind of melatonin that our gummies do.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone likes gummy vitamins, so we do want to have, an array of options for people. Some people do like to swallow pills. They don't want to chew. I mean, my daughter had braces. She couldn't eat gummy vitamins for 2
Sure.
years, so swallowing was the only option for her. We also sell soft gels, which are these kind of like tiny little swallowable pills, but they're really easy to swallow and they're very soft. And even for something that you do swallow, it's still pretty delightful considering
Yes.
that that's what you're doing.
Yes, yes. So I spent some time researching, and so it seems that you're really innovative in terms of the products. I mean, the various niches that you're going into in a very, high pace relative to the industry.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting, I think, for me to understand how this internal, initiation and innovation is working, the brainstorming around products, launch, marketing, e-commerce, I mean, brick and mortar. I mean, please share with us, I mean, how these processes are being introduced internally, how are they being approved, and what is the methodology?
Well, I can't give away too much because it's a very secret sauce. However,
Okay.
I think that it's so much better to dream the product before you know if it can be so. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that has been a key to our success is just kind of dreaming of the solution first and then backtracking on how do we make that? How do we make that
Wow.
stable? How do we make
Yeah.
that taste good?
Yeah.
I think that's really key, especially as millennials and millennial women have always been our market, especially as millennial women get older. They
Mm-hmm.
are really seeking more supplements, and we have to stay on track with that from an innovation perspective to keep serving that audience, to keep doing, providing the care or the supplements that they require at this time,
Okay.
at any given time. But I think even millennial women are struggling with the fact that they're now in their early 40s and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't expect to be here and they still,
Yes.
they're a little surprised.
Sure.
One of my favorite audience names that we have is surprised to be here. I love it. That's my favorite
Yeah.
persona of all time. Surprised to be here.
Yeah. Wow. Really, really interesting. So you do like customer surveys, you're trying to, probe for some market trend or market demands, or is it something that is
Yeah.
more initiated internally?
Yeah, most of our brand team kind of drives the innovation piece. I'm on the e-commerce side of the business where
Mm-hmm.
basically I'm ringing the register. So I'm the front of the house,
Yeah.
and it's always exciting to see our innovation plan and calendar because they really have to see into the future to understand, like, what are we going to need to be competitive? What are the needs that our customers are going to have? And they've really hit it out of the park. So I have the easy part of that, which is just putting it on the site, making a nice PDP,
Mm-hmm.
building a homepage banner, and
Yeah.
really just communicating to customers that something is there. When we launch a new product, probably 75% of the work is just telling customers that we have this new thing now. And
Mm-hmm.
our customers are always really excited to hear about anything new. So it's very easy on our end to send an email, to send SMS, to show it on the website, and to do paid media supporting a launch. We really have the easy part of it. Coming up with the ideas for innovation, that's definitely the hard part, and I'm glad I don't
Yes.
work on that side of the business.
Great. So on the marketing side, launching new products and obviously trying to, expand the existing footprint with existing customers. So you mentioned email marketing, you mentioned paid
Mhm.
media, right? Share with us. I mean, how a launch or launch a new campaign looks like. on the marketing side?
It took us a while to get to a place, I think, where we could comfortably just pull the lever on a launch and have all
Mm-hmm.
the tactics sort of already built out and in place. Um, but of course, there's two sides to everything. There's retention marketing and the acquisition marketing.
Sure.
I'm mostly focused on the retention piece. So it is pretty easy. It's like, what are all your communications channels? How do you make sure you get this information out? Email and SMS and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the normal ways. Um, we do a series of emails usually for a launch that is sort of like the first one's a teaser. You don't really know what the product's going to be. And then it's more of an announcement. And then it follows with a series of education. So if it is a new product line, like adaptogens is a great example, not everybody knew what adaptogens were. So it
Sure.
required a little bit more education around how it works, what you can expect. It is something you do need to take them every day to see the full effect of adaptogens. So it's not like you're going to take one and immediately feel amazing. So it has a little bit of a slower burn in terms of how long it takes for you to feel it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's always that educational component. But I will say on the acquisition side, new products drive new customers for us. And most of our products, as we launch them, sort of dig into a segment of customers that are either underserved, not well served. We're solving a problem that maybe they didn't think was possible to solve, or even maybe we're offering a solution to a problem, but because of our brand awareness, we're a little bit more legitimate feeling than others. Like a great example, last year we launched a men's libido supplement. It's really, I mean, we have a men's multi, but it was really one of our first launches for really the male audience, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those exist. I mean, you can go on Amazon and look, and there's plenty, but
Sure.
they're really from a branding and understanding and even just like risk awareness factor, you're just
Mm-hmm.
not sure what these are, where they're coming from, what you're getting. So when OLLY decides to make a men's libido supplement, it feels far more legitimate and has a lot more scientific backing, a lot more scientific claims that can
Mm-hmm.
be proven. And so that for us, I think, was a great example of moving into a space that clearly already existed, but doing it in a way that has more legitimacy and a little more science power than other solutions that are already out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you also you're working with like influencers in
We
the
do. Our
launch?
marketing team does
Okay.
a lot of influencer work. It's a huge part of our business. And mostly that's because we do market our products almost more like a beauty product.
Mm-hmm.
Our products are solution oriented. They're not the traditional vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C. They're very much designed to help with a need state. So if you are having gut health issues, we have a gut health line. Um, if you are looking for kind of like the hair, skin, and nails, we have a whole beauty line. So our products are beauty. They're not biotin,
Yeah.
like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other brands kind of do. So, I think that's been really good for us because it makes the vitamin aisle a little less intimidating. And you don't have to walk into the aisle already knowing biotin is for hair. Not everybody knows that. I mean,
Sure.
a lot of
Yeah.
people are definitely willing to do their research on supplements and vitamins, and that's great. For us, we just want to make it easier for a customer to solve whatever problem they're having.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. So, I mean, if we can focus on the marketing aspect, I hear a
Mhm.
lot about, acquisition is getting harder and harder. Definitely in a, cookieless world, with the cookie deprecation, consumer spending less, microeconomics, interest rates. What do you see? I mean, from your angle.
It is definitely getting tougher out there for
Mm-hmm.
acquisition. I think everybody I know in the business is feeling the same squeeze and the same pressure. And, costs are going up, traffic is going down in quality. Um, I am seeing more brands turn towards using a CDP to kind of be able to capture that information, be able to deploy it throughout their business. We have one as well, so I think that is helpful, especially with the first party data.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you explain
but
more about the CDP for our
Sure.
listeners?
So it's if you're not familiar with a CDP, it's a customer data platform,
Mm-hmm.
and it lives underneath your business in e-commerce and
Mm-hmm.
in direct to consumer. And it really is like the one true data source for what you know about customers, what their preferences are, what their behaviors are, kind of all in one place.
Okay.
It captures everything, captures every event, and then you can take that group of customers, build your own specific audiences to do specific things with, and deploy those to channels like Meta and TikTok and Snapchat and other places where you can kind of push those audiences, see how they perform.
Okay.
You can segment those audiences, you can test them against each other. But I think the big difference between having it and not is that you have one, like it is truly the one source of truth for your customers' data. Whereas I feel like if you don't have one, you have a lot of sources of truth. You have what lives in your CRM. You have what lives on your e-commerce platform from your customer purchase data. Maybe you have some marketing lists that just sort of float around in the marketing department. So it is nice because it also helps you have a firm control over the customer data. And from a disciplinary perspective in a business, it's really important to be able to control who has access. What do we do with it? What are we doing? How do we know it's protected? And from a compliance perspective, it's a lot easier to manage your data in one data source versus like 6 data sources.
Sure. Yes. And the idea of competition, and it's all like 2024 is like everything happens together, right? So increased
Yes.
competition, acquisition is more expensive. So many things are like obviously requires everyone to be more innovative, more doing more with less, less resources, less staffing. Obviously all the outsourcing is I think a big trend, with CMOs are now
The whole
CMOs
fractional
as
world
service,
is
fractional
amazing,
world.
isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, there is like a shift in the industry. Things are changing, obviously, and how do you see this evolving? In the following years.
For me and for my brand, 2024 is truly the year of chasing efficiency. Coming out of COVID, I think there were so many D2C brands who thought they were invincible. And I mean, we kind of all did. We're just like,
Yeah.
this is the best. This is like what we've been dreaming of for the last 10 years is that,
Yes.
all these customers being driven to a direct consumer world was really exciting. And I think the downstream of that too is that you saw these companies like Salesforce and like Meta and Google really just staffing up in ways that probably weren't sustainable, which is why we're dealing with all these tech layoffs now.
Yes.
So what I'm really focused on this year is looking at costs, understanding shipping costs, and they're going up so quickly. And I mean, I've been doing this so long that I remember when shipping used to be a line on your P&L that was always positive, like it was revenue. Shipping was revenue, and now the price even to play and compete with Amazon is that you're going to eat a lot of that shipping cost. And
correct.
And at the same time,
Yes.
shipping costs are just growing so quickly and escalating so fast. That's an area where even just cutting a little expense can go a really long way, especially if your business is growing and scaling, because it's only costing you more. With paid, I think it's the same way. It's just about kind of mastering that efficiency piece and doing the most you can with what you have, even if it's not necessarily what you like, or what you think feels good. Sometimes the data has to drive the decision making, whether you like it or not. And I think that's always a challenge. Like, we gather so much data as a D2C business, everybody does, and sometimes that data doesn't reflect what you think or what you hope, but it still is. And your business has to be driven by the customer at the end of the day. So whether you agree, whether it affects you personally and this speaks to you personally, it doesn't really matter. Like, truly understanding what motivates the customer is the only way to make decisions. So I think it's the data, making sure that you're leveraging it, but also the efficiency piece is going to be so important to manage those costs this year.
Yes. I feel there is, like, with data, you need to have a lot of courage to first, accept what the data tells you, right?
You have to. Going to therapy, I think, like, you have to be ready for whatever comes. It may not be what you expect.
Yeah. And then, okay, this is something you do with yourself. Then you need to do it with your team. Hey,
You do.
there is a major shift here. let's absorb it for a second and think, what do we do now, right? So
You have to take your ego
it's
out of it. I think
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
hardest part is this is not about you, and none of this is. And if you think that you're our customer, you're wrong. Like, you're never the customer of the place where you work. You can't
Yes,
have that. You can't exist with that bias. So it's data has been, in many conversations, the only tool I have to kind of fight the status quo. And I wouldn't be able to gather all that data without the tech that we have that gathers it. So obviously that is really critical, is making sure that you have the data. But then I think having the brave soul to leverage it in an environment where not everybody wants to hear it can be really tough, but at least you have something, and everybody knows you're supposed to love data. So
yes.
um, you can't deny it. You have to accept it.
You have to accept it. So if speaking about data, how do you see the impact of AI, I mean, in your business?
I think it's really tough for us just because we are super regulated in everything that we
Mm-hmm.
can say in an ad, everything we can say on our website. So I
Okay.
don't know. I know that there are brands using Chat GPT to write product
For
descriptions, and I'm very
descriptions,
jealous
yeah.
of them. I'm very jealous. Um,
You
but
can't.
there's a brand that I know that they add 150 new products every month, and writing the product descriptions for all of those
Wow.
products is a huge heavy lift. So for them to be able to do that, that's great. I'm sure it's saving them tons of time and resources.
Mm-hmm.
For us, and for me personally, I think it's been more around figuring out how to use AI in ways that solve little problems, not huge problems.
Okay.
So, taking something that's like paragraphs and turning it into an FAQ format, like, that can be done in seconds. That's great.
Nice.
It's not
Yes.
creating content. You're not
Mm-hmm.
creating anything. You're really just kind of reorganizing it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like looking for those opportunities of where are the little shortcuts I can take that don't impact content or don't impact communications. Um, that's kind of how I've been handling it. But a lot of the tools we use have built-in AI features. We just started working with this company called Vandra,
Mm-hmm.
and they operate on your website and basically they use an AI tool to sort your customers into like high intent and low intent buckets. And then they target discounts to your low intent customers who maybe are price sensitive, or, maybe they're new to
Nice.
brand and they're not sure. But they use AI to kind of sort customers. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
awesome for us. Like, we have been thrilled with this tool. We've only been live a few
Wow.
weeks, and the
Nice.
impact is just great. And
Mm-hmm.
AI can think and process information at a rate that humans can't. Like, we couldn't do that even if we wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't analyze all those behaviors all at once and kind of decision around that. So I think in those kinds of tools have been awesome. If Facebook and Instagram have their own platform within their platform that is AI, and so does Google, and those perform really well for us. And the downside is you don't get to see inside that black box, but thus is the nature of Meta and Google.
Of
You just got
course.
to keep putting money in. So
Yes.
um, yeah, I think there's, even our SMS tool has an AI component to it where you can use it. You could use it to write SMS copy.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, obviously, because everything we say has to go through a regulatory department. But at a time, you could say, like, I want to say we have this new, like, you would just type in the prompt. I want to say we have this new product, and I want you to say it in a Gen Z voice, and that's funny. And it would write it that exactly like that, and it was really fun to play with. Obviously, we never used it, but
Yeah.
super fun, super fun.
Nice. Nice. So these market conditions, right? We talked about the competition and the overall market scenario. Does it has any impact on like SKUs, scaling back
Hmm.
SKUs, or what's the impact on that part of the business?
I think that is such a great question, because a lot of brands that I know, and I think this is a product of COVID too, truly, where it was
Mm-hmm.
like more SKUs, more money.
Yeah.
The more SKUs
Sure.
you could get on your site, the better off you were. Um, I think many brands are stepping back now and forcing themselves to go through the process of SKU rationalization.
Mm-hmm.
And while it is, nobody likes it, it's sad, it's not fun. You know that there are going to be customers that are disappointed when you cut a product that they love. Um, it's always a hard thing to do, but it's one of those very necessary things to do. like I said
Okay.
earlier, we're spread out in all these different categories within the vitamin and supplement space. And some of them, sometimes you just have to walk away from some of those
Hmm.
segments.
Like,
Like that, I think the hydration powder market right now is a great example. Like there's a million players in hydration powder.
okay.
So, for us to be in that, does that make sense? I don't know.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not on the brand side, so I don't make those decisions, but I'm very glad not to have to. But you do have to make some hard choices when you look at the competitors in the space, your margins on the product, whether major retailers are going to accept the product in brick and mortar stores. Like all of those things factor into, does it make sense to keep this product or not?
Got it. Got it. So it's a kind of a competitive analysis, trying to, you know, pick your battles and focus where you're strong, right? Make the strong stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So I know that you have a lot of experience with e-commerce platform, and in the many years that you're operating in this sector, you're also developing, the platform. You can even code by yourself, right?
Yes,
If
yes.
needed. Wow, amazing. So share with us a little bit about that aspect. I mean, how do you operate in terms of your e-com technology stacks? I mean, how do you make changes, updates on a day-to-day basis? Are you using internal team or some external providers?
It's different. It's going to be different for every brand. But what I
Hmm.
can say, I think an e-commerce manager has to be very good at least 8 things. Like it requires a lot of skill sets. You've got to be a good inventory manager. You've got to be a front end developer.
Hmm.
You've got to have an eye for design. Um, you have to understand the science of e-commerce. You have to have customer empathy and customer experience skills. You kind of have to have this UX UI mindset all of the time, and you have to be able to manage stock turn. Our products expire, so
Okay.
managing those, the windows that we have in which to sell products is a key part of
Hmm.
the inventory management. You have to know how to manage fulfillment. So there's just a
Obviously.
lot. There are a lot of different things that go into that, and the more skills you have as an e-commerce manager, the easier I think that is.
Okay.
Um, Most of the teams I know on the brands that I work with, or I'm very familiar with, don't have huge e-commerce teams. And I think the people that find themselves to be the most successful in this space are those that have a lot of skill sets and a lot of varied experience in their background.
Okay.
But at the same time, you can do this. Anyone can do this. I think this Shopify moment that we're living in really has democratized e-commerce in a way that anyone can do this if they want to. Doesn't take a lot of learning. If you have basic business skills, you can run a store. It's not that hard. You might need a developer to help you build out some things,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, anyone can do this now. And 10 years ago, that was not the case. It was the cost of ownership of an e-commerce store was insane. I mean, just thinking about owning a Magento instance or owning a Salesforce Commerce Cloud instance, having to have at least 2 developers on staff to support it because everything is custom,
Sure.
or having to pay an agency 20 grand a month to be there to change your homepage banner. All of those
Yeah.
things, like that doesn't exist now. Everybody can do
Yeah.
those things. It's not that
Sure.
hard.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely going the right direction. And it's the direction that it's going is going to continue to help us build sort of these lean, mean e-commerce machines that don't have to be these huge teams. The cost of ownership is low. You've got to have the right people in the place, with the skills that you need for your business, but it doesn't have to be a lot of people. And so that I think is a big difference between where we are now and where we
Yes.
were 10 years ago.
Obviously, the idea is to execute in a very, very fast and implement fast, right? And do the changes.
Yes.
I mean, kind of this agile platform, agile mentality. It's a
Hmm.
mindset thing, right?
It absolutely is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And coming from the world where, I just built stores to a world where everyone's kind of a brand person, it's really hard to explain what agile means and like thinking about problems in an effort to impact kind of way. But I think it's helpful no matter what you're doing. But even the concept of just like launching an MVP and then iterating, that's really hard for people that are not in the software business, who don't
Sure.
necessarily know how to manage a digital product or something like that. It's really different way of thinking about it. But to me, it's very comforting because I always know like this is the right way. This is the way you do this.
Yes. Yes.
But it can apply to anything, I think, just thinking about it in that agile way.
Yes. I mean, you mentioned like, the roles, the different characteristics or requirements for, head of e-commerce, let's say in a brand. And you have the
Hmm.
perspective of, 10, 15 years back. And you're looking now, if you would have hired, a head of e-commerce, what are I mean, there are any, obviously, things are evolving, technology is evolving, but in terms of the skill set, right? I mean, like you know,
Yeah.
what do you see in terms of what has changed in the job description of the head of e-commerce during the years?
I mean, I think the first most important thing that is critical that probably isn't in a job description is that you have to be insatiably curious about
Uh-huh.
what's out there, what is possible, what people are building. I saw a product demo in early January from a company that we ended up signing with because the product's amazing,
Okay.
that it solved a problem I didn't even think was possible to solve. And if you're not curious and you're not out there looking for those things, you won't benefit from them. So I think that to me is number one, is just being curious, being, a lifelong learner, being passionate about this business and caring about, sometimes startups are a risk, but
Sure.
sometimes it's a great risk. I mean, sometimes the money runs out, but also
Yeah.
sometimes you end up with a product that's really, really incredible and solves a lot of challenges across the business. So I think that to me can drive a lot of the other things that you do need to be good at. And I think some of the things for me that I'm not good at, I'll just start with that. Um, I am not a designer. I will never
Hmm.
claim to be a designer. I so much respect for people that do design work. Love to have them all around me because I just can't see the things that they see. So having those gaps filled that you don't like, if you're head of e-commerce and you're excellent at fulfillment, you're excellent at the technical piece, but you're just like, I don't design, I don't then fill the gaps with the people around you. And like you mentioned earlier, it is a very fractional world now. You can get a fractional CMO, you can get a fractional sales officer, like you can get
Yes.
anything.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be somebody who's full time, but you can't just leave those gaps as gaps. Like you have to fill them. So if you don't have someone who's a good inventory manager and really understands the science of product turn and just, managing in a super efficient way, then you need to bring somebody on who does, because otherwise you're going to overspend, you're going to waste product. It's not Business is not going to go well for you. So I think though, I feel like the fulfillment piece and inventory management a lot of times is a very wildly different skill set than someone who builds websites.
Yes.
And so it is
Correct.
hard to find both of those
Hmm.
things, but they are both kind of very almost scientific in nature. So it's like the same logic patterns you would use, just applied in a different way. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, the big gap is design, and it,
Got it.
and it always
Yeah.
will be, and that's okay.
Okay. Everyone has a gap, right?
Everyone has a
But
gap, and that's
but
okay.
I love it when you say curiosity, right? I mean, because
Yes.
I think today it's all about iteration, right? You launch something
Hmm.
which is not fully cooked, right? And you get some feedback, then you iterate and you adapt, quickly over time, right? Just to make it perfect. Don't wait for
Yep.
the perfect, product in the lab, but launch it, iterate, get feedbacks, and improve from there, right? And also be open and to as you said, to understand everyone has a gap in knowledge, whether it's fulfillment, design, or whatever. So
Hmm.
it's okay to accept it and find the gaps, and having the right mindset to work with other who can fill in this knowledge, right?
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
how do you see, I mean, the staffing, in e-commerce? I mean, let's say on the technology side or the engineering or IT side, how do you see like the future teams look like, right, with the new, I mean, all these explosive data, storages, and AI, and I mean, from your perspective, staffing,
I
what's
mean,
going to
on the
change?
direct e-commerce team, it doesn't have to be big.
Hmm.
It just has to be efficient. So I think it depends on the size of your business and the amount of SKUs that you have.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen a lot of brands sort of have this like head of e-commerce structure and then have like somebody who runs retention and somebody who runs acquisition, and thinking about it in terms of that, because they're really very different functions
Hmm.
and very different strategies and tactics. So I've seen a lot of that, and I think that's great. Does every brand need a developer on staff? No, probably not.
Hmm.
Probably not. I mean, it kind of depends on how complicated you want your experience to be. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like what you said. You put the product out, you put out your MVP and you iterate on it. You maximize it. You
Yes.
tailor it to the customer's behavior. If you wait for it to be perfect, it will never be perfect. And
Never.
the market will have already moved on by the time you get something out the door. So
Yes.
that's just not an option in this space.
Mm.
You got to
Yeah.
go. And again, might not be perfect, but then you can see how the customers interact with your site, can make the changes that get it really close to being what the customers want. So
Hmm.
I think that's a big piece of it. And then again, just having the flexibility to bring people on when you need to, whether it is a designer, whether it is somebody to help you. Like we're working with a company right now that's auditing all of our shipping costs and seeing if we could be getting better shipping prices.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just having that ability to be like, I don't know, let's see. And I one of these things I see from these companies like this more and more, which I think is awesome, is like a proof of concept. So they're like, let us audit a month of your shipping data and we'll tell you if we can save you money. I
Hmm.
mean, there's no better way to sell than that. Like, prove to me your
Yes.
product works. I am all in.
All
So,
in.
I think that
Yeah.
strategy for like SaaS companies selling into brands, that works. Keep doing it,
Yes.
please.
Yes. Yes. So it seems that you are very open. I mean, you're working with like vendors and innovative
Hmm.
tech that like becoming like an extension of your team, right? In essence.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we work with Attentive for SMS and email,
Hmm.
and I mean, they are like our extended family at this point. Like they're amazing
Yeah.
partners. They understand our business just as well as we do, and I think it matters a lot when you have these great vendor relationships where your team that works with you at these vendors are as invested in your success as you are. And we have a lot of those. We've been really lucky, but also we only really want to work with vendors that are like that, that kind of fall into that bucket, that we can build really close and long term relationships with. We made a big move when I first started at OLLY. We moved from Recharge for subscriptions over to Order Groove for subscriptions. And Recharge is very plug and play. A
Hmm.
lot of brands, especially smaller brands, use Recharge and they're great for that. But we wanted something that was more of like a customized experience and something that was a little bit more of like a long-term investment versus a short-term fix. And we went with Order Groove, and I mean, gosh, no regrets. Like they've turned out to be like amazing partners, and we knew from the beginning that they were as committed to our business as we were. So I think surrounding yourselves with the right partners and not making immediate decisions around what you want, really thinking it through, talking to other brands,
Hmm.
will help you be more educated, I think, in that area. And I know a lot of other e-commerce people in the business, and I will always ask them what they think and understand what their
Yeah.
experience was working with a vendor. And I get a lot of reference calls too. And I think it's great because at the end of the day, we kind of all want each other to win. And we're all very honest with each other about whether something works or it doesn't work, or it's difficult, or the
Yes.
implementation is really hard, or, it's nice to have that community that you can share that feedback with.
Yes, and I know that you will not always accept. I mean, if you have a colleague that said, "Hey, this vendor is amazing," it doesn't mean that it's amazing for you,
Right.
right? So,
They're not always right. Well, they
exactly.
could have been
That's
amazing in a previous project, but this
yeah.
isn't, their strength. So, yeah, you have to really you're going to have some you're going to lose some, like sometimes it's not
Yes.
going to work out, and that's okay too. We went through a phase this past year where we just thought would be great to have an app, and then we're like, this is a terrible idea. We're not going to do this. So,
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think you also you can't be afraid to be like,
Yes,
I was
everyone is
wrong.
doing
Let's
an
not.
app. Let's do an app as well, right?
Exactly. And you're like, wait a minute,
No.
why are we doing this? What do we
Yes.
hope to gain? So I think you have to be in an environment where it's okay to fail sometimes, and that's a great thing about Ollie is that, I put out a really great use case for this app. And then I was the one who was like, you know what? My bad. Never mind. This was not a good
Okay.
idea. Um, and everyone, like our leadership structure is like, oh, cool. Oh yeah, that makes sense. We get it. We can see why originally we thought it was going to be a great
Hmm.
idea. And now we can
Okay.
also see why
Yeah.
we're going to kick this can down the road for another year. So I think that environment helps a lot. Like an environment that understands tech, understands the risks, and understands that sometimes your situation changes and that's no longer the best way to spend your resources. So I've been really lucky to have a boss and a leadership structure that understands sometimes it might be a good idea today, but in 2 weeks, the challenges are different and it's no longer a good idea.
Yes, yes. Very, very interesting. So, Jennifer, I'm interested in your perspective about, omnichannel, like online versus offline, right? And maybe D2C versus B2B. We would love your feedback on these topics.
It's a great challenge. It really is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, direct to consumer is there to support the whole business. So I think that's a good place to start. And hopefully anyone who's listening who's at a brand is in a similar environment where it's kind of like if somebody wins, everybody wins. That's not the case at all brands. And that structure that pits channels against each other is not helpful. And there's a lot of that out there. I know that there is, where it's kind of like, well, Amazon did this and D2C did this and maybe Walmart.com did this, and everyone feels like they're competing against each other for customers. And that can be really tough. And I don't think it's helpful. It's not productive to the overall goals of the business, which, is awareness, consideration, and conversion, regardless of channel. Like, we want our customers to buy our products wherever they're most likely to buy our products.
Yes.
Figuring that out is the hard part. So understanding, did I lose a customer from my direct consumer site, or are they just now buying their product at Publix because now we have this product on the shelf at Publix. We didn't last year, but now we do. So that is really challenging, I think, for everyone in the omnichannel business.
Yes.
Is understanding, like, where did our customer go? Are they still in our universe? We don't know. The nice things about vitamins, like, this is like one of the best things about the vitamin supplement space, is that people don't brand jump a lot when it comes to vitamins. If you take a vitamin every day, you should take it every day long term. You don't change every time you run out to something completely different. If it works for you, it works for you, so you're going to stick with it. So that's a huge advantage that we have, just knowing that a customer maybe doesn't shop on direct to consumer anymore, but they're picking it up because now their Walgreens has it. That's awesome.
Yes.
I wish there was a way to tie all that data together in a super easy way. That's a problem I'm waiting for somebody to solve.
Okay, like, we have a new startup idea.
Retailer data, merging it to the record of the customer. I can't wait till that happens. It's going to be amazing, but it doesn't exist right now. So everything is a little bit of a guessing game, kind of tracking that customer across channels. And we can get really close in the digital space, but when we start tying it to in-store behavior, it's really hard. It's really hard. And I think it's hard for all the brands. And we're just kind of trying to do the best we can do. There's a lot of places and spaces where loyalty can factor in brick and mortar, but not everyone is going to play. Not everyone cares about cashback or couponing or, but the people who do, there's a lot of trackability there, but that's not going to capture all your customers still.
Sure.
So I think it's going to stay a challenge for a while.
Okay, Jennifer. Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, so much knowledge and experience and, value. So I really, really appreciate your time and knowledge. Anything you want to add?
This is the best business in the world. So
okay, that's a good summary.
Grateful to be in it every day. It's never the same. It's constantly changing and evolving. And if you can change and evolve with it, you will be very happy in this business too.
Wow. It's a great summary. So Jennifer, on a personal note, could you share with us something about yourself that most people don't know?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, okay. So one of my hobbies used to be cleaning and restoring very old limestone gravestones.
Wow.
And I used to live in Tennessee, in Kentucky. I lived in the South for a while, and there are a lot of those there. So they're mostly Revolutionary War era gravestones. And they're all kind of made of the same limestone. They're very challenging to clean. And I became somewhat of an expert in like cemetery restoration. Now I'm in the Bay Area. There's not as much work for me to do out here. Okay. The stones are different. And, in rural areas, you can find a cemetery that's just under 3 feet of leaves, and we've done projects before like that where we've kind of pulled out all the leaves, cleaned every stone, and it's very meticulous, slow work, but really satisfying and kind of weird.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think it's the same principle of honestly, of front end development, where you're just
Yes.
just a little bit at a time, gonna go real slow,
Yes.
gonna make it nice.
Okay, I was looking for the connection to the real world of e-commerce, right?
It's just
Thank you
like
for that.
patience, and just
Yeah.
incremental work every little bit.
Wow.
Sometimes even if you can only make it 15% better, that's still
Yes.
15% better.
Sure. Wow, great. Thank you for sharing. So where is the best place to find you, Jennifer?
So I live in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
I'll be speaking at the Digital Summit in Orlando in a couple weeks. Let's see what else. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Not Twitter anymore. I guess it means if you mean physically find me or
No, I mean
digitally
online, I
find me.
think. Yeah, digitally, I think. Yeah. I mean, whatever, right? Sorry, whatever you want. So,
But yeah, I'm in
yeah.
the Bay Area, so at a lot of brand innovators functions and media post functions. So might run into some of you out there in this
Yes.
world. It's the e-commerce world is not a huge world, so
Amazing. So, thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was really amazing episode.
thank you
And
so much for having me. This was a
yeah,
lot of fun. I really appreciate being here.
great.
It's a
Thank
great
you.
way to
See
start
you
a Monday
soon.
morning.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.